You made 11,000 arrests. You seized enough cocaine to fill a football stadium. You buried 3 agents and folded the flags yourself. Last year, 110,000 Americans died of overdoses, more than when you started. The cartels are bigger. The product is cheaper. The fentanyl that didn't exist when you joined is now the leading cause of death for Americans under 45. 32 years. And the machine didn't slow down. It accelerated. This is your life as every level of a DEA agent, and this is how you lost. Level 1. The recruit. You apply to the DEA like it's any other federal job. There's a form online. You fill in your education, your work history, any prior drug use. That last question trips people up. You write the truth. They already know anyway. 3 months later, you get a call. Come to an office in downtown. Bring 2 forms of ID. The office looks like an insurance company. Carpet tiles, drop ceiling, a water cooler in the corner. A woman in a blazer asks you questions for 3 hours. Why do you want this job? What languages do you speak? Have you ever lived abroad? Do you have family in any of the following countries? She slides a list across the table. Mexico, Colombia, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. You look at it like she's asking you something neutral. You pass the screening. Then comes the polygraph. Sensors on your fingers, a cuff on your arm, a band around your chest. The technician tells you to relax. You try. He asks you about drugs, about money, about people you know, about the things you've done that you're not proud of. The machine can't actually detect lies. But sitting in that chair, sweating through your shirt, you don't know that yet. 2 weeks later, they call you back. You're in. Level 2, the Academy. Quantico, Virginia. 16 weeks. You're in a class of 48. By week 4, 8 of them are gone, washed out, failed psych evals, couldn't handle the firearm qualifications. You keep your head down and learn. You learn drug chemistry, how cocaine is extracted from coca leaves in jungle labs in the Holaga Valley, how fentanyl is synthesized in clandestine labs in Sinaloa, how heroin moves from poppy fields in Afghanistan through Pakistan into Iran, through Turkey, up into Europe, and then across the Atlantic in the liners of luggage, in the stomachs of mules, in hollowed out furniture, in shipping containers. You learn surveillance, how to follow a target on foot through a city without being spotted, how to run a vehicle surveillance on a highway with 3 cars and a motorcycle, how to set up a static observation post in an apartment and watch a building for 12 hours without moving. You learn undercover work, how to build a cover story that holds up under pressure, how to make a buy without spooking the seller, how to remember details under stress because you can't take notes, you can't record, you have to hold everything in your head until you get back to the car and breathe. Your instructors have all done it. The one who teaches undercover operations spent 4 years inside a Tijuana cartel as a ghost buyer. He looks fine. His hands shake a little when he pours coffee. You graduate. They give you a badge and a gun and a salary of $49,000 a year. Your first assignment is in a field office in El Paso. You are a street-level agent. Your career is about to begin. Level 3, the street agent. Your first cases are low level. Mules caught at the bridge with kilo bricks taped to their torsos. Street dealers on the east side running a trap house of a condemned duplex. Stash house operators who think they're invisible. They're not invisible. You learn to see the patterns. The same cars parked in different spots every day. The foot traffic that makes no sense for the neighborhood. The utility bills that don't match the number of people living in the house. You build your first informant. He's a low-level runner who got caught with 2 kilos in a rental car, facing 10 years federal. His lawyers tell him to cooperate. He comes to you. You meet him at a Denny's at 7 a.m. He is 22 years old. He has a kid. He is terrified. You work him for 6 months. He gives you names, locations, phone numbers. He introduces you to his distributor as a friend who needs product. You make 3 controlled buys. The distributor goes down. The distributor gives you a supplier. The supplier gives you someone bigger. This is how it works. You climb the ladder one rung at a time. Every arrest is a door to the next door. Your informant disappears after the trial. You don't ask where he went. You don't want to know if someone figured out what he did. You make 11 arrests in your first year. You're flagged as a high performer. A supervisor calls you in. He asks if you ever thought about undercover work. Level 4, the undercover. They don't just send you in cold. There are months of preparation. You're given a legend. That's what they call it. A fake identity with real documentation. A name, a history, a social security number that belongs to no one alive. A driver's license from a state you've never lived in. A phone with call logs already built up. Business cards for a company that exists on paper only. You are now a buyer. You represent a distribution network based out of Phoenix. You need product, reliable supply, good price. You're willing to spend. Your first UC operation is a mid-level crew in Albuquerque. You spend 3 weeks becoming their friend. You eat at the same restaurants. You watch football at their house. You let them win at cards. You listen to them talk about their kids, their girlfriends, their problems with their landlords. They're not monsters. That's the thing no one tells you. They're not evil. They're just in a machine they don't know how to get out of. You buy 4 kilos from them. You document everything. You testify at the trial. You watch the crew leader get 22 years and think about his daughter's birthday photos he showed you on his phone. You do 12 undercover operations over 3 years. Each one gets bigger. Each one takes longer. Each one costs you something you don't get back. Your first marriage ends during year 2. She says you became someone she doesn't recognize. She's right. You don't tell her. That's the point. Level 5, the deep cover. Most undercover operations last weeks or months. Deep cover is different. You're inserted into a network with a long-term objective. Not a single burst, a complete takedown of an entire supply chain from the street to the source. This takes years. They spend 6 months building a legend before you go in. Your cover business is real. It has accounts, clients, tax returns. You lease an apartment in your cover name. You drive a car registered to your cover name. You live as someone else so completely that when you call your real name, it takes a second to respond. You spend 2 years embedded inside a distribution network, moving products from Sonora into Southern California. You work your way up slowly. You're a buyer at first. Then you become useful for logistics. Then they trust you with the information you were never supposed to have. You learn the routes, the safe houses, the names of the commanders above the people you're working with. You learn how the money moves through shell companies in Arizona and Nevada, through cash-intensive businesses, through cryptocurrency wallets, and wire transfers to accounts in Panama. You're filing reports through a dead drop protocol, meeting your handler in parking garages for 15 minutes every 3 weeks. No phone contact, no email, nothing that could connect you to law enforcement. One night, the man you've been working closest with tells you he thinks there's an informant in the network. Someone's been talking. He lists the suspects. Your cover name is not on the list. You nod. You tell him you'll keep your eyes open. Then you drive back to your apartment and sit in the dark for 2 hours trying to decide if you're still a cop or something else. Level 6, the burned asset. Your cover holds for 26 months. Then it breaks. Not through any failure of yours. A cartel accountant in Culiacan gets arrested by Mexican federal police and gives up everything he knows. Your cover name is in his records as a buyer. The record shows payment made to a DEA front account. Someone connects the dots. You get a flash message on your burner phone. One word, out. You have 40 minutes to leave. You leave everything behind. Your apartment, your car, the clothes in your closet. You take one bag with your real documents, drive to a parking structure, get into an unmarked car that's waiting on level 3. 2 hours later, you're in a safe house in Phoenix. Your handler tells you the operation is over. 34 arrests from your intelligence. 17 tons of product seized. 3 cartel commanders indicted. You ask about the people in the network who weren't part of the cartel. The people who are just employees. He tells you to write a report. You spend 3 weeks debriefing. You sleep 12 hours a night and still wake up exhausted. The agency psychologist asks how you're feeling. You give her the answer that gets you cleared fastest. They offer you a choice, a desk job at headquarters, or a promotion to a Special Operations Division task force working directly with foreign partners in those countries. You've been under for 2 years. You should take the desk job. You don't take the desk job. Level 7. The International Operator. The Special Operations Division operates in countries the DEA is technically not supposed to be operating in. You're attached to a task force in Honduras, working with the country's police special forces unit. Your mission is to interdict cocaine shipments moving to the country's northern coast from Colombia toward the US. You spend 18 months in a country where half the government is on the cartel's payroll. You work with local officers who are brave and underpaid and terrified for their families. You work with other officers who feed information to the same networks you're trying to destroy. You learn to work both. You give the trustworthy officers real intelligence. You give the compromised officers information that leads nowhere. You watch to see what leaks and follow the leak back to its source. You call in US military support for interdiction operations, Black Hawk helicopters, maritime patrol aircrafts, fast boats operated by special operation forces, resources that cost more per hour than you make in a year. You raid a processing facility in the jungle outside Toccoa. 800 kilos of cocaine. 2 operators wounded in the firefight. You carry one of them to the medevac. His name is Rodriguez. He's 28. He lives. After 18 months, you're pulled out. Elevated threat level. Someone put a price on your head. You fly home and walk into a grocery store and stand in the cereal aisle for 10 minutes, trying to remember how to make a decision that doesn't have lethal consequences. Level 8. The Task Force Commander. You're running your own unit now. 12 agents, 4 analysts, liaisons with FBI, ATF, Homeland Security, and 2 foreign intelligence services whose names you can't say out loud. Your unit targets Tier 1 organizations, the network that supplies the network that supply the dealers on the street. The level where the money gets so big, it's no longer about drugs. It's about power, political power, military power, the ability to control entire economies. You spend 3 years targeting a single organization. You build a case piece by piece. Informants, intercepts, undercover buys, financial analysis, surveillance in 6 countries simultaneously. Your wiretap operation captures conversations that reach into government ministries, into police command structures, into banking institutions, into a sitting politician's campaign finances. You brief the Justice Department on what you have. They tell you to keep building. The case isn't ready. You build it for another year. Then Justice tells you the prosecution is being scaled back. Too many sensitive relationships involved. Too many governments that would be destabilized by what you know. You spent 4 years. You've burned 6 informants, 2 of whom are dead. You spent $40 million in operational funding. They're going to prosecute 3 mid-level commanders and call it a win. You write a report. You sign off on the press release that calls it a major victory. You watch the press conference and say nothing. Level 9. The Division Chief. Headquarters. The building in Arlington that says DEA on the outside, but nothing else. You run an entire operational division now. Global Enforcement Operations. Your budget is classified. Your staff is 200 people. Your informant network spans 40 countries. You brief the director every morning. You brief congressional oversight committees that ask questions they don't fully want answered. You coordinate with CIA, NSA, DEA, and a half-dozen agencies whose existence isn't public. You make decisions that change who lives and who dies in countries most Americans have never thought about. A cartel leader responsible for 40,000 deaths is in a country with a weak extradition treaty. You have an asset inside his protection detail. The asset can set up a location. A strike team can be there in 6 hours. The lawyers say you need authorization. The authorization goes up to the National Security Council. The council says it's a law enforcement matter, not military matter. The lawyers argue about jurisdiction for 3 weeks. The cartel leader moves. The window closes. You fly to the funeral of an agent killed in a different operation. You fold the flag. You hand it to his wife. You go back to work. Level 10, the ghost. 32 years. Then they give you a retirement ceremony in a conference room with a view of the parking garage. 40 people come. Most of them you worked with for a decade or more. Some of them you recruited. Some of them you trained. 2 of them owe you their lives in ways that can never be said out loud in any room. The administrator gives a speech. He talks about sacrifice and service and the invisible war. He presents you with the Administrator's Award for Distinguished Service. It's the highest decoration the DEA receives. You can't tell anyone what it's for. You sign the final round of non-disclosure agreements. You're reminded that everything you saw, everything you did, everything you know is classified until you die, and probably longer. You drive home to a house in Virginia that's too quiet. You don't have too many people to call. The friends you had before this job are strangers now. The people you worked with are scattered across the world or retired to places where they don't talk about what they did either. The war on drugs is still happening. You know this because you can turn on the news. You know this because the numbers don't change. 110,000 Americans died of overdoses last year. The cartels are bigger than when you started. The product is cheaper and more lethal. The fentanyl that didn't exist when you joined is now the leading cause of death for Americans under 45. You gave 32 years. Thousands of arrests. Hundreds of millions in seizures. Operations that took down organizations that were replaced by other organizations within 6 months. You sit on your porch and watch the neighbors get play in the street. Somewhere right now, a kid in a jungle lab is pressing cocoa paste into bricks. A mule is swallowing balloons at an app hole. A dealer is cutting product in a bathroom. A user is trying the thing that will kill them. The machine doesn't stop. It never stops. You were one of the people paid to slow it down. You don't know if you did. That question will be with you until you die. And unlike the metal in the box in your closet, you can't put it away.